Good day, everyone. I am Febijoy
I
Alarde,
am Desiree Ikdang,
and today we are going to discuss the article titled Anaphoric Reference in Clinical Reports Characteristics of an Annotated Corpus by Chapman and others, 2012.
First, let us look at the objectives of the study. So the study aimed to describe the characteristics of the corpus in terms of the frequency of anaphoric relations, the syntactic and semantic nature of the members of the pairs, and the types of anaphoric relations that occur. So over the years, a number of natural language processing or NLP systems are being developed to classify, extract, and summarize information described in narrative reports. And true enough, these systems help in identifying diseases, findings, and medications. However, understanding the meaning of a narrative report requires humanly understanding, meaning it requires interpretation of not only the individual concept described, but also the relationship with each other. With that being said, understanding how anaphoric reference is exhibited in clinical reports is crucial to developing reference resolution algorithms and to identifying complexities of clinical text that may alter the features and methodologies that will be successful for automated anaphora resolution. Now let's discuss the methodology of the study. So the study adapted a corpus and annotation schema. There were 180 reports compiled from a variety of University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, hospitals, and from Mayo Clinic. So these reports rather include the surgical pathology, radiology, discharge summaries, and emergency department. So a detailed description of the corpus and the annotation of the anaphoric reference in a set of clinical reports were done by 3 human experts. The 2 of the experts are trained ICD coders with extensive experience annotating clinical reports for natural language processing, while the third expert is an engineer in pathology with a degree in linguistics. Then the pre-existing corpus was manually reviewed to select notes exhibiting anaphoric relations, and then the annotation schema was also developed, and Baga's 1998 framework for evaluating conference resolution algorithms was then adapted. So before we proceed to the discussion of the results of the study, let us first look at the important concepts that have been discussed. First, let us look at the definition of anaphoric relations. So anaphoric relations, as defined in the article, are relations between linguistic expressions in which the interpretation of one of the linguistic expressions relies on the interpretation of another linguistic expression. In other words, anaphoric relations describe how the meaning of one linguistic expression depends to another. So for example, you encounter the word the pain in a text, so its interpretation may require context from a previous mention of pain, such as neck pain. Is a discourse model, a hearer's or reader's mental model of an ongoing discourse is called a discourse model, which contains entities referred to in the discourse and the relationships in which the entities participate. So practically, a discourse model is the mental representation that a listener or reader builds while engaging with the conversation or within text. The next one is the salience. So when we talk about salience or saliency, it's about the text being recognizable or being noticeable. So for example, humans refer to entities in many ways, like the pain could be referred to as chest pain, the pain, this pain, a pain in her chest, or it. So therefore, entities that have been mentioned in more recent utterances tend to be more salient or accessible than the entities that were mentioned earlier. Next is the linguistic form and salience. So linguistic form of saliency refers to the prominence or importance of a linguistic expression based on how it reflects the cognitive status of an entity in discourse. So this prominence is determined by the form of the expression, like pronouns, demonstratives, noun phrases, and its syntactic position within a text.
So now, let us move on to the types of information considered in anaphoric resolution algorithms. So, it is performing anaphoric reference requires in a wide range of linguistic knowledge, and an automated algorithms try to capture that knowledge as rules and features used to train a system. So, one type of information considered in anaphoric resolution algorithms is the lexical and morphological attributes. So, what is lexical and morphological attributes? So, some anaphors can be successfully resolved based only on the number and gender of the antecedent. For instance, the surgeon photographed the tumor after removing it, and the correct antecedent is the one that matches the number and gender of the pronoun or the pronoun anaphor, and this is the pronominal. And in non-pronominal coreference, one important indicator of the relationship, it is the overlapping or the identical phrases in the antecedent and anaphor. For example, as with the pain and chest pain. For example, in the sentence, patient complains of chest pain, and then the pain radiates down right her arm. So now let us move on to the next type of information considered in anaphoric resolution algorithms, which is the syntactic and grammatical attributes. So the syntactic and grammatical attributes, it referred to the characteristic that help to determine how pronouns or other referential expressions relate to their antecedents in a sentence. Vast majority of possible antecedents for pronouns can be derived by purely syntactic considerations. So, the authors of this article captured the syntactic form of the anaphor and antecedent by annotating the phrasal tag. So, what is phrasal tag? So, phrasal tag is the anaphors in the corpus with the values noun phrase, pronoun, clause, or other. If we have the phrasal tag as the anaphors in the corpus with the values of the noun phrase, the researchers or the authors of this article also annotated the function tag as the markables or as the function of the noun phrase in the sentence. So, what is function tag? Function tag is it indicated the grammatical function of the markable as subject, object, modifier, or section heading, a function specific to clinical report. So now let us move on to the next type of the anaphoric resolution information algorithm, which is the semantic attributes. So semantic attributes, it is the semantic knowledge is particularly important for intersentential anaphora and for indirect noun phrase anaphora. So, the selectional restrictions a verb places on its arguments can help filter candidate reference. So, for example, in our example earlier in the lexical and morphological attributes, we have the surgeon photographed the tumor after removing it. So, the candidate antecedents for it includes the surgeon and tumor. So, selectional restrictions for the verb removed help the reader select the correct antecedent, which is the tumor, because obviously we can't remove the person. So now let us move on to the next type of the anaphoric information resolution algorithm, which is the existing annotated corpora. So existing annotated corpora, it is the NLP community focusing on general English has used two coreference data sets to develop and evaluate algorithms for coreference resolution. So there are two sets. It is the Genome Project and the ACE. So the Genome Project, it is extended the annotations to include the set, subset, and part and whole relations. While the ACE, it is the annotation schema added a positive and predicative phrases to the identity relation links. So now, Let's move on to the last type of anaphoric resolution information algorithm, and it is the anaphoric resolution algorithms. So it is defined as most algorithms attempt to capture syntactic, semantic, and pragmatic constraints for pruning the number of potential antecedents that could be paired with an anaphor and preferences for selecting one antecedent over another. And many of the attributes we annotated in the corpus were motivated by the constraints and preferences commonly incorporated in reference resolution algorithms.
Now let's proceed to the discussion of the results based on the objectives of the study. So for the frequency of anaphoric relations, the results of the study showed that anaphoric relations were frequent in the clinical notes examined, and in average, every sentence in corpus contained at least one anaphoric markable. When we say anaphoric markable, it refers to an element referring back to a previous mention. So for example, the patient presents complaining of shortness of breath, which she has experienced for 3 days. So the she there refers back to the patients who complain the shortness of breath, which she has experienced for 3 days. Moving forward to the syntactic and semantic nature of the members of the pairs, so the authors annotated the semantic type of the markables using a subset of UMLS, or the Unified Medical Language System semantic types, which include the people, anatomical site, disease or syndrome, sign or symptom, procedure, lab or test result, indicator, regent or diagnostic aid, organ or tissue function, other, and none. So the results revealed that the most prevalent semantic type for anaphoric markables was people, which accounted for 51%, or more than a half of the markable of all markables. And then the next most prevalent types were anatomical site and disease or syndrome. So, people being the most prevalent semantic type, which accounts for 51%, or more than a half, makes sense because most clinical reports often focus on the patient. So, going back to the example of the patient, so the patient presents complaining of shortness of breath, which he has experienced for 3 days. So again, the she there refers to the patient, and in this case, the semantic type of the markable she is identified as people because it is a human entity, which is the patient being referred. An example for the anatomical site: patient complains of chest pain. The pain radiates down her arm. So here, the reference to right arm is marked as an anatomical site because it specifies a physical location on the body involved in the patient's condition. So for example, it was noted that she had a perforated septum. I do have the operative report for the septal reconstruction. So this example can be considered as part of the disease or syndrome because it refers to a specific medical condition affecting the patient. For the syntactic nature, the authors captured a syntactic form of the anaphor and antecedent by annotating the phrasal tag of the anaphors in the corpus with the values noun, noun phrase, pronoun, clause, or other. So noun phrases were further categorized as indefinite, definite, bare, demonstrative, proper, personal, possessive, demonstrative, and relative nouns. So the results showed that the most prevalent phrasal tag found in the corpus was bare noun phrase, followed by pronoun personal, then noun phrase definite, and the pronoun possessive. So bare noun phrase, these are noun phrases that do not include determiners like the or a. So, for example, patients complain of chest pain. So that is an example of bare noun phrase because obviously there is no determiner that only patients experience chest pain. There's no determiner a or the. So personal pronoun, on the other hand, are pronouns that replace noun phrases and refer to specific people or things. So for example, when we say she experiences chest pain, that is an example of a pronoun personal, because here she is a personal pronoun that refer to a specific patient. So noun phrase definite are noun phrases that include definite articles or demonstratives specifying particular entities. So for example, when we say the doctor examined the patient, so the doctor here and the patient are both definite noun phrases. And lastly, the pronoun possessive. So these are possessive pronouns that indicate ownership or association. So for example, when we say her condition is now better. So here the pronoun her is a possessive pronoun referring to a specific condition of the patient, which is feeling better. So with this result, there is an implication that clinical narratives demonstrating missing determiners makes part of speech tagging and parsing more difficult. So now let's discuss the answer to the third objective of the study, which is the types of anaphoric relations that occur in the corpus. So based on the results, the most common type of anaphoric relation in the corpus was identity, and other types of anaphoric relations such as this part, whole, and subset have also occurred. So let's have an example for the identity relations. But before that, let's discuss what is identity relations. So this type of anaphoric relation occurs when two expressions refer to the same entity, or in other words, they denote the same person, thing, or concept. So for example, patient complains of chest pain. The pain radiates down her right arm. So as you can see in this example, the pain is anaphorically linked to the chest pain. So both phrases refer to the same entity or the same physical sensation, which is the chest pain experienced by the patient. So as for the part-whole relations, these relations involve one expression denoting a part of something from the word itself, part whole, while the other denotes the whole entity. So as you can see in the example, a mention of the ear canal has a set or subset relationship with an entity chain for the ear chains. So here, the ear canal refers to the specific part, while the ear canals refer to the entirety or the set that includes multiple ear canals. And lastly, we have the set and subset relations. So this relation indicates that expression or the subset is included in with another expression or the set. So again, going back to the example, the right ear can refer to specific subset of ear, which includes all its parts, such as the ear canal. So here, the right ear is a subset within the larger set of all ears. So understanding these anaphoric relations help to create cohesion in discourse, allowing readers or listeners to understand how different parts of a text are interconnected.
So this paper describes the characteristics of the first clinical corpus annotated with three types of reference, which is the identity, the part or the whole, and set or subset. And based on the corpus, the researchers of these articles or the authors of this article concluded that the anaphoric reference is commonly used in many types of clinical reports. The annotations of noun phrases, semantic type, and section headings may be especially important for automated resolution of anaphoric reference. And that separate modules for reference resolution may be required for different report types, different institutions, and different types of anaphors. And lastly, the researchers concluded that in order to have an accurate resolution, it requires a wide range of domain knowledge, especially for pathology and radiology reports, with more part or the whole and set or the subset relations.